You volunteered for a singleton mission in Vietnam.
Yeah. I mean, it just looked to me like there were a lot of SOG missions where the mission was to go set on a ridge line or go find the location of a battalion, just go do something. Nothing kinetic about it. Just sneak and peek and find out, get the information, get it back in, get out, that I could just go do. I mean, drop me out there in the middle of the night. Nobody's going to be expecting it. Helicopter comes across that low. Nobody's going to think you're going to parachute in. It just screams across through there. They don't see it. It's dark. They hear it. They just don't know what happened. They know it didn't stop. And, I just carried a survival radio. And I didn't carry the PRC-25, all that garbage. I don't need all that weight. I just need to get in there. I need to send you a signal when I'm ready to come out. And, if things are too hot or too bad around that area, I'll start walking. You can pick me up somewhere else. And if you can't find me, I'm walking toward the border. It might take me a while, but eventually I'll get there. And Meadows said, no, you're crazy. I'm not putting you out there by yourself. He said no. Camp commander said no. SOG chief said no. You can't do that. And then fate said, I'm going to activate RT dynamite. Everybody else has said no, but fate is about to say yes. You are about to be activated, dude. So that's when I did the R&R mission.
Holy shit. Let's go into it.
So, yeah, I mean, I felt I was convinced I could move quieter, farther, more effectively. And with some missions, it was just me. I didn't need a team with me because I wasn't going out there to make contact or to fight anybody. I was to be silent, hidden, collect the information I needed, and get out. So when I did go out, it wasn't all that silent, but still worked. So.
How many times did you do that?
Only got to do it the one time. But, it ended up, I had to go. There were a bunch of people in trouble, and somebody needed to go get them and lead them out. So I did that.
Can you be a little more descriptive?
I had just come back from a mission, rough mission, and they were going to give me 2 days. Let your team have 2 days, take a break before we give you your next mission. So I decided I was going to leave camp, go downtown for a couple of days. Because if I stayed in camp, somebody was going to find me and give me something to do. I was heading for the gate. Heard a helicopter coming. Helicopter landed on our pad. A lot of activity going on around it. And one of the people there fumbling around with the helicopter saw me walking toward the gate. He started yelling. I couldn't understand him, but so I moved closer to him, and he ran over to me, and he said, do you know how to rig McGuire rigs to the floor of a helicopter so that we can use them? We've got an emergency going on. I said, sure. Done that lots of times. I can rig that up. So I ran over. I had my car 15 and a bandolier with me. Set that against the contents container. Jumped in the helicopter, started, making all the appropriate ties and fastening it down, getting them rigged and ready to go. and then the helicopter started to move. Told the crew chief, I said, hey, I'm still on here. And he said, sorry about that. We got to go. We're in trouble. So he said, you just have to go with us. So, okay. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do or anything, but yeah, I guess I'll go with you. So I sat back and I just kind of started thinking about what was going on. And I had just one vision just started playing over and over in my mind, and it was that the helicopter in front of us got shot down. When we got there, the only way to get to the helicopter was to go down the McGuire rig, or drop the McGuire rig and go down the rope. But it was like I was looking into a black hole. I couldn't see what was really going on. Anyway, I pulled the crew chief over and said, I had this crazy vision. Helicopter in front of us is shot down, and now we're there, and I think I might have to go down and do something. And he said, you're crazy. I said, yep. And about 10 minutes later, he pulled me over and he said, you're not going to believe this. They just shot down the medevac helicopter in front of us. I said, okay. That's interesting. In my mind, I started thinking, I think RT dynamite might have just been activated. Because somebody's going to have to go down there. So when we got there, the first helicopter that they shot down, it crashed and burned. Three survivors, the pilot, the co-pilot, and NCO that was on there with them. The medevac got there, dropped a McGuire or a jungle penetrator down. They put the co-pilot and the sergeant on the jungle penetrator. Medevac started pulling it up. It got hit, lost power. It went forward. And the jungle penetrator is just like a big grappling hook that you're setting on. So they were about 100 feet in the air, and it got caught on a big limb. The cable snapped, and it was just like, the medevac had been shot out of a slingshot or something. It just fired it right through the canopy and into a ravine. So when we got there, we circled around. I could see the helicopter was face down into a ravine, and the crew was still in it. You could see the fuel spilling out over them. I could see, 40, 50 NVA coming up the ridge toward that. It was going to take them out, plus any, a tracer, anything, ignite that fuel. They were all going to burn, and they were so banged up and everything, they couldn't get out of the ship. So I told the pilot, circle around, hover, close to that hole, and I was going to drop a McGuire rig and go down there. So I borrowed the crew chief's M16 and stepped out on the skid. We're about 400 feet high in receiving fire, and McGuire rig went down. It was 150 feet long, but it was still up above the canopy that was 150 feet high. But I told the crew chief, get him to lower it some, because I'm going to go down. No, I didn't have any gloves or anything. Turned out to be a brand new nylon rope. And I thought, if I squeeze really hard and I wrap my feet around it, I can slow it down enough. It's not going to burn that much. And about 30 feet down, I realized the flaw in my plan. I couldn't squeeze it that hard. The rope had already turned red. It was just taking everything off both ends. I was bleeding, blood running off my elbows, people shooting at me. I ran on down. When I got to the McGuire rig, I was able to, because it was pretty big, I was able to stop. But, I was 20 or more feet up above the canopy at that point. And he was taking enough fire, he was going to leave. So I knew I needed to go ahead and just drop into the canopy before he carried me off, and I'd be too high to do that. So, I dropped, went into the canopy, and I discovered it's really hard, even in a jungle canopy, to be able to grab a hold of something and hold on to it when you're falling through. So it took me about 100 feet or so bouncing off limbs and things before I finally managed to hit with my stomach and kind of wrapped around a big limb. Got my breath. I broke a couple of ribs and things as I was falling through. No meat on my hands. Climbed down. As soon as I got to the ground, 2 NVAs standing there, so terminated them.
How'd you do that?
That technique I was talking to you before, where I'd put 5 silhouettes at, and I'd just go full auto as I went down to the ground, because I still had the M16 that I took from the crew chief. I'd lost one of the magazines, but I put another one in it. He'd given me a bandolier with 5 magazines. So I took those 2 out and then started moving toward the crew that was still trapped in the helicopter. The pilot started shooting at me because he didn't know anybody else was down there, where I was coming from. I could hear that little 38 popping as he was shooting at me. So I'm yelling at him and telling him, "Hey, I'm the rescue team." And finally, he had to reload, and when he reloaded, I charged him. And once he saw me, he was kind of in shock, because he's looking at me and thinking, "You're the one that needs to be rescued. You're all bloody from head to toe and torn up and everything." But anyway, I managed to get all of them out of the aircraft and move them to a safe space. So if it exploded, it wasn't going to get them. So then I had to go. There was a SOG team that the initial helicopter had went out to try to pick some of the members up. So I went to where they were, and I heard an American voice speaking kind of loud. So at that point, I thought, well, they must not be captured. I mean, there's an American talking. And I got a little closer, and I could see the 1-0, the team leader. So I yelled at him, and told him I was coming in, not to shoot. Tell these people not to shoot. And he said, "Come on in." I kept if I back up a minute, I kept telling the pilot of the other crew, I said, "I'm going to get you out. You just need to do what I tell you. I will come back and get you. Don't move from where you are right now." And I go up to the team. So I go in, and there's an Air Force lieutenant colonel standing there, talking to the team leader, telling the team leader that he's in charge of the operation now. He's the senior man on the ground, and he's in charge. So when I got there and heard him saying that, I said, "You're not in charge. You're on the ground now. I'm the senior ground commander, and I'm in charge." He said, "You're a lieutenant, and you are not in charge." And I said, "You need to look around." Because all of a sudden, all the Indig had turned their weapons toward him. They had figured out what was going on. I said, "They are about to make you disappear, and your body's never going to be found. You need to be quiet and do what I tell you." So he quietened down. I went down and got the 2 guys off the jungle penetrator, brought them up, used the radio, called for help, and told them I needed explosives. So a Marine CH-46 came out, dropped 50-pound blocks of C4 and some fuses and fuse lighters and blasting caps. So I blew a big several trees down to create a hole in the canopy. Got some gunships out, started working the gunships, and eventually I got everybody up the jungle penetrator into the CH-46.